So we can get past it. Last name is Bacon, and that is directly related to Kevin. So my grandfather and Kevin's father were brothers. So it was really cool when I watched the episode of he and his wife, Kira, and they did the Finding Your Roots with Henry Louis Gates. And he was tracking Kevin's family. I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is mine. We are sprung from the same, direct line. And it was literally I think the first member of our family was, the surname was Cumley, but they came over, at the request of William Penn, right? So literally William Penn said, hey, why don't you come over to this cool new colony? We can be Quakers together, and here's the deeds to a couple of plots in Philly, and here's, 1,000 acres, in the Brandywine Valley or whatever it was. So yeah, I definitely come from that Eastern blue blood side. And then on my, my mom's side and my paternal grandmother, very much Southern Texas, old school. You would always have some old boys like, oh man, I got the best dove recipe, man. You ain't never gonna believe it. So you take that dove breast, you wrap it in bacon, you put some jalapeno in the center and some cream cheese. And so then all you end up getting is this big bite of bacon and jalapeno and cream cheese with like a little bit of stringy, dry dove meat in the middle.
What is going on, everybody? 'Tis I, the enigma of the gun airwaves, Miyanovich, welcoming you to Season 3 of the Liberal Gun Owners Lens podcast, where unprecedented perspectives are packed into the cargo hold for the LGO Lens spaceship Voyagio.
That's fucking Italian.
Don't believe that evolution is possible with guns and public safety in America? It's already happening, y'all. Minds are evolving. Think guns versus public safety is the only game in town, do ya? Think culture war is the big boss, do ya? Then keep your ass in the past. Everyone else, all aboard! Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Liberal Gun Owners Lens podcast. It is Miyanovich and wowzers. Going to pull back the curtain for you today. One of the reasons why we have this podcast is so I can lay down the jazz for you guys and expose you to our jazz, the liberal gun owning jazz. Liberal gun ownership is a unique and interesting phenomenon. And over the past 10 years, behind the curtain of LGO development, we have been developing our own style of thinking, our own language, our own way of processing guns in society. And this is like jazz, y'all. This is like the language of jazz. It's riffing, it's thinking, it's flow. It's not rote. It's not the Bible. It's not laws written down on a book. It's not the perfect, essential, empirical whatevers. It's just humans, Homo sapiens, observing the world, experiencing things, and laying down the riffs with one another. And this language of liberal gun ownership development, this jazz, is unprecedented on planet Earth. There's no other place like the liberal gun owners development reality. There's no other language like it. The people on our Facebook group and in our community don't necessarily even have this jazz. The other groups, Liberal Gun Club, they don't have this jazz. We have the jazz, and it's taken a long time to develop it, and it's super, super important that the world is just exposed to the jazz. The world is just exposed to the riffs, and that's what needs to happen now. So one of the things that I need to do, and will continue to do, is to open up the curtain between where you are and our jazz behind the scenes so that it can influence you. It's not trying to be perfect. It's not trying to be Jesus with a bullhorn telling everybody what's up from the sky. It's not trying to be Walt Whitman telling you what's up from inside of this classic and amazingly powerful book. It's just people in the now who have been experiencing life and things, laying in the riffs, man. That's where it's at. And so this is why today I'm bringing you the Joshua Bacon, because Bacon is an OG, and he's been a riff master with me and our other cats for a number of years now. He represents some of the best examples of riffs and the way to riff and the way that we riff and where it's at, man. You dig what I'm saying, cats? Very, very important. I don't want to say much, but I will say this, that Bacon lives in Texas, and he's a part of that LGO core Texas cadre that we have, which basically enabled us to establish liberal gun owners out in the real world. When we first established ourselves as a company, or I was able to achieve funding, and that enabled me to get into my van with my family and do what was called the Jedi Tour the very first time, which is I just drove around the country to 14 different cities and met face-to-face with people that were on the Facebook group that had the zhuzh, that had the mojo, that seemed like they were going to walk this walk with me. And so I drove all the way across the country and back to different regions. And there's no place in this country through that experience that reacted to me doing things like Texas. Texas showed up. And that is why Texas will probably always be at the core of what LGO does in one way or another. Because I don't have time for the fucking people that don't fucking show up. And just as an aside, I know this episode's about Bacon, but all of these episodes now are going to be more about what I think and what I have to say. Here's the reality. I drove all the way across the country to California and drove 3,000 miles to get there and had people from our own fucking communities tell me they couldn't come and meet me for a dinner that they said they were going to meet me for because traffic was a little heavy and they were going to have to not. They couldn't drive fucking 35 minutes. This is the kind of shit, right, that's up. I don't have time for wasting time. And the thing is, Texas didn't waste my time. And Texas still doesn't waste my time. If you want to know why we're in Texas when we do the company training, if you want to know why the vast majority of the people that are in the development group are from Texas, it's because Texas fucking showed up when I needed them. That includes Bacon. So you guys are going to get a chance to hear a little bit of flow. You're going to get a chance to hear a little bit about Texas today, and you'll get a chance to hear what's going on behind the curtain. I can't show everything. I can't let you all in on all of our riffs, but I definitely can let you in on what's going on, and I want you to hear it. It's super important. Equally as important, you need to be able to hear how Bacon and I riff in this series. It's good shit. We start off, I'm trying to keep it cool and talk about hunting and standard shit, but you see, we fly into the fucking riff pretty fast because that's what we talk about. And that's how we talk. So it's going to seem like it's all over the place, or it might seem like it's going back and forth from me trying to talk about guns specifically and hunting specifically. And we keep going into the social milieu and the bigger talk. But that's the riffing, y'all. That's the jazz. So without further ado, please join me for this very cool series with LGO developer Joshua Bacon. Joshua Bacon, welcome to the Liberal Gun Owners Lens podcast, man. It is great to have you here.
Hey, y'all. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So I look at the podcast, Josh, in a number of ways. One of them is ethnography. I want to leave a record for the future alien races to find down in the rubble of what was going on with people in the 21st century and the 20th century. And what is this thing that happened with liberal gun ownership? So this is like an ethnography. This is me keeping a record of shit that's happened in this area of life in America, liberal gun ownership. And so I like to have people like yourself on, LGO developers like yourself on, so that other people can hear from a perspective that's not my own, what it's been like or what the experiences have been like. Before we kind of get into that, though, I wanted to ask you, you hunt? I know that. How long have you been hunting? I don't know if we've ever really talked about this in depth.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I did not grow up in that Texas sort of, I don't want to say wealthy, but that's really where kind of hunting has gotten to, because Texas is I think at last count was something like 98% privately owned. So public land opportunities are few and far between. They're crowded. They're literally dangerous. You've got a bunch of good old boys with half-assed rifles out in the woods, shooting at anything that moves. So it can literally be dangerous. But in any case, I was not the kid that grew up, with the dad that took him hunting and had a lease. Typically, and to explain to listeners, most people that big game hunt in Texas have to have a lease. So they're paying literally thousands of dollars a year to access land. And there's all types of different setups, but essentially it takes cash to do it. And so that's generally going to be kids whose parents have enough income or can devote enough of their meager income for it. Like dad's really into it. So I didn't grow up that way. My dad was a target shooter in high school and in college. He's got a beautiful, I don't remember the model, he still got it, but a Target 22 with Olympic sights, real heavy walnut stock, a cool old school bolt action 22. But the first hunting experience for me was definitely with my older brother, Matt, who, his father, my two brothers, Matt and Jess, were from my mom's previous marriage. And her husband was a big hunter. And so Matt and Jess grew up hunting and, gun ownership, obviously much more into that classic sort of Western gun side. But in any case, Matt occasionally, when I was really young, would take me dove hunting, and our dove hunting was literally going to the edge of town to the high line. The power lines come through, sort of a clearing. So I grew up in Conroe in East Texas in the piney woods, really thick. So you had to find a cleared off area. You had to find something like this, a utility right of way or something. And we would just go there with a shotgun and just, shoot at some dove flying by. And the first time he handed me the 12 gauge, I got what's called a Scotch pair. So there was two birds, one shot, both birds down. And that was about the extent of my hunting until I was 15 and went on my first deer hunt with a friend of a friend.
Was it consistent? There's the dove hunt, there's the deer hunt. Was it like spotted? You do it here, you do it there?
Definitely the latter. So with my brother, that was just occasionally. And then he was off to Colorado and he was a good 11 years older than me. So he literally could beat my ass at everything.
Right.
Like there was no challenging your older brother when he's 11 years older than you and, has a cool classic muscle car and, all his rowdy country redneck friends in our little town. So yes, it was very spotty. And then at 15, another weird connection, my choir director in high school, her husband was a pilot, a former vet and a pilot. He flew Gulfstreams and he was on a lease, a big hunting lease out in central Texas with a bunch of the rich good old boys in Conroe that they all hunted it together. I knew all these guys, from way back. And he took me out when I was 15, handed me a rifle, a 243 Winchester. We climbed up into a blind before the sun had risen, on this huge ranch, going through cattle guards. And I mean, it took a good 20 minutes from the road driving along this ranch just to get to where we would walk in to hunt. So a big piece of property. Sun came up. There was a little spike buck underneath the feeder, and he said, "Shoot him." He was a Puerto Rican guy. And I put the crosshairs on there and pulled the trigger. And that was the only time I'd ever shot at any sort of big game, and nailed it. And, he took me through the whole thing, made me, showed me how to clean it, stood over me, made fun of me, laughed at me as I was fumbling with, hot steaming guts as they pile out of an animal that you just ended. And it was electric. I got to tell you that, that's something I've always thought about, especially with hunting. It's purposeful. And if you don't care, right. Or if it doesn't get to you that in the end, you're ending another creature's life, you are taking that from them, then it's almost psychopathic if you don't feel something.
Yeah. I always wonder about that. And also as it relates to overhunting and some of the attitudes that I see in gun owners, who just don't have that trade-off going on inside of them, that sensitivity or that sensibility. I'm sure it's a long conversation, but we could probably trace a lot of derptitude and bullshit that we have to deal with, or negatives. I would say negatives associated with gun culture, tied into dudes that are really into guns, but they lack sensitivity.
100%. Yeah.
We certainly see that when we go to places like gun ranges, or if we go to public ranges, and it seems like these kind of cats would be the same cats to leave fucking shotgun shells all over the place and garbage. And as much as we try to back up David Yamane and his work in terms of the normalization of guns, there's just a lot of horse shit around gun people. And gun people, I guess people do stupid shit, but gun people definitely do stupid shit.
Oh, yeah. Along with the power of life and death.
that seems to be the biggest example.
It's not just them doing stupid shit and posting about their, whatever anime meme and their new fleshlight, and trying to be edgy on the internet. Now they actually have devices capable of easily ending another human being's life at, up to and including a mile away.
Sure. Casual attitudes about violence. So you're from East Texas, you're from Conroe, but man, you don't have hardly a lick of an accent.
That depends. Now, if you get Will and me together, and we're at that Thunder Gun, if we go out to that range in deep East Texas, and their gun range that he goes to, I just, as late as 1998, 2000, you would see guys at the intersection close to this gun range, straight up KKK regalia, selling T-shirts. Like, this is a normal thing in this part of the woods. I mean, I grew up 10 minutes from a place called Cut and Shoot, Texas. Cut and Shoot. Yeah, I mean, this is old school, deep East Texas, old racist, old good old boy network, count the votes under the bridge, throw the ballot boxes into the lake. Like, that is the milieu, I guess, that I grew up in. But I had my dad, who my parents divorced when I was 6, but my dad was a radio newscaster, a newspaper editor, erudite, educated, from an East Coast family that ended up in Dallas, Texas, where he grew up. But the family was from Pennsylvania, from Philadelphia. And so I was raised in that with music and other influences, but I can get real Texas real quick when I need to.
Right.
I mean, at a drop of a hat, man, you get us together, you got a code switch, man. It's all about changing it up. When I'm talking to these old boys at the range, I'm not, perfect, proper English as we discuss something. I'm going to code switch to fit the folks that I'm with.
Yeah, and people don't know this, but you're also a singer. Like, you're an educated classical choral singer, and you went to East Texas, right?
University of North Texas.
North Texas. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You
study voice and music.
Yeah, so I would imagine in that there's diction work there and a lot of work to try to get, which would kind of indirectly or directly take any kind of twang out of you.
Sure, it does. And that ties even back to Cut and Shoot. So one of my good buddies, who is 2 years ahead of me, who I followed to the University of North Texas, his name is Mike Mays. He grew up in Cut and Shoot, and we used to go out and hunt squirrels, on his property in Cut and Shoot, and have big bonfires. And he is country as fuck. I mean, ham, chicken fried steak, country, squirrel gravy, like the whole 9 yards. And he is a mega international opera star now. I mean, mega. Yeah. And so that's kind of been his bit, from then on. He's that guy. So he's, performs all over the world. His title part, I mean, the dude, was ripped, and he would be stripped down, like, shirtless in this, and I think it's Dead Man Walking is the opera. It's a modern opera. Like, had the prison tattoos, like huge swastikas and stuff. He was a guy on death row, who was dealing with the end of his life and the mistakes that he had made. And so it kind of cuts back to our little racist town. Like, it wasn't that hard for him to slip into character, with Aryan Brotherhood and KKK guys cooking meth out in the piney woods, 15 minutes from our house.
Yeah. This is something that fascinates me, man, because I'm moving to Western North Carolina. I've tasted it for the first time. There's a number of different versions of the phenomenon, but one of them is called Hippy Redneck. And I never knew that Hippy Redneck existed, but it does, and it's real.
It is.
And it's prevalent. Like, so you just have to find this one crossover area where these dudes are growing up in the country, and they love freedom and don't fucking tell me what to do, which is also a hippie thing. Like, I'm just going to do what I want. That's how I'm going to live.
That's probably the truest redneck ethos, I would say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other negative connotations that go to it, but I think that underpins quite a bit of it in that belief.
And then if you get into land preservation and caring about the land, there's a crossover. But then weed is also a major crossover. And
right.
And that's what growing weed and selling it, illegally, whatever, obviously. So there's a major crossover there. I don't know if I ever even, I had a sticker on my pickup truck when Obama ran the first time. And, cause I saw this group online called Rednecks for Obama. So I bought the sticker. I thought it was hilarious. That's the only time I knew about that, at that time. But then I moved to Western North Carolina, and the fucking crossover between, like, living in the country, but also having liberal sensibilities is a real deal.
Yeah. And more that I've used this term before too, and I'm sure others, trademarked it before me, but sort of liberaltarian.
Yeah.
I would say that's where I find myself these days now, as far as the spectrum, liberaltarian, like we've talked about, the true classic liberal ideas that are for more freedom, more rights, not less.
Yes. Or yeah, we definitely know that policy and the government is going to be a reality, and we want to use that. And at the end of the day, we want to put in our money in the tax kitty, and we want it to go to certain things.
Exactly.
But at the same time, liberalism, libertarianism, and conservatism all have shared ground, and that shared ground is actually supposed to be the first thing that you look at. In terms of the entity that's going to possibly abuse you, is going to be the people in charge.
100%.
It's going to be the conglomerate of power at the top of the hierarchy that you can't stop from happening. So all three groups actually are supposed to be like, hey, hold on a second. We're not supposed to step on the gas with the whole government because it's the number one abuser of people historically.
Yeah, that is literally the wheel of time. Whether it's a king, it's an emperor, it's a Senate body of rich landowning men in Greece. Like it's always going to come down to that in some fashion or another. The difference is I think we come from a side that says, well, why don't we try and make it work instead of just burn it all down and say to hell with it?
Yeah, because that's just as unrealistic.
Absolutely.
And whatever eye of the needle a lot of these nihilistic people are, people that maybe for good reasons they want it all to burn down because their every experience has been they've been pissed on and shit on. So why wouldn't they feel like that at least? But I think reality is whatever the eye of the needle is for the big event. If somebody's like a prepper or they think it's all going to come crashing down or whatever, on the other side of that event, there's going to be structures, government, vying for power, people moving into power vacuums, organization, hierarchy. That's going to be there also. So why wouldn't you want to work on a skill set and a chess skill set to be able to deal with those kinds of things? So the whole it's going to fall down, fuck it, is just, to me, it's another excuse to be a child.
It is, and I fight that so much because I just feel like I'm in this place where there's just no good options. Where do we go next? Where's the leadership? Where's the will? And speaking back to Texas and sort of that redneck hippie, soup, that is being made, the sauce, as it were, we're getting lost in the sauce. How can we, especially, pardon me, I'm getting my thoughts in order. So for us in Texas, for all the strong LGO mafia here in Texas, we enjoy the privileges and ease of access and gun ownership and shooting opportunities, and, all of those things here in Texas because of sort of the cover of conservatives. But at the same time, every one of us, would send the entire leadership out on a greased rail, knowing that what would replace them, if it were, the hard left of center, would do everything in their power to take away access, to firearms, self-defense, usage that we have now. And it's such a delicate line. I think conservatives will throw that in their face when they find out you're a liberal gun owner. Like, what the fuck, guy? What's wrong with you? You want them to take your guns? I'm like, no. That we have protection for that, but I also don't want to vote for people that are interested in running another person's womb, right, or forcing women to die with coat hangers in back alleys because they can't get access to healthcare or abortion in their own state. Yeah. And I don't know where how to thread that needle. Yeah. That still is up in the air for me.
It's somewhat an untenable mess, and some of it's not fixable is sort of the issue, where we're in a complexity now that's completely unprecedented for people. And so we're just not wired, I don't think, as a machine to be able to deal with this thing that we have. I don't know what has to happen for there to be a new paradigm where we can handle things, where things aren't so dysfunctional. But I don't see that paradigm happening anywhere soon. And to talk to your point about libertarianism and liberalism, I really do think it really boils down to two things for the liberal gun owner. And the first thing is, and this would be in response to when a Texan who's a conservative says, how the hell can you be a liberal? Number one, because nothing will ever make guns the most important thing in the universe. Nothing will ever make guns the number one thing. Nothing.
Yes.
Not even 99% of gun owners think that's true, that the guns are the center of everything. So that means other things are important too. So if you're a liberal gun owner, that's going to be how you're set up. I think if you comb those people that are like, how the fuck could you be that way? They also don't make guns the number one thing. They just think they do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the first element is that the guns are just they're not the center of the universe. The other element with how the hell can you call yourself a liberal and be into guns is that people don't even know what liberalism is. Like what?
No.
So liberalism has become a generic term that's been basically captured by political interests so that you can have a basic binary and fight against one another, liberals versus conservatives. But this is another area where the thing we were just talking about, one of the things that screws us over, fucks us over, is our governance and our governing and our political class. Well, they fuck us over in a lot of different ways. One of the ways that we've been fucked over greatly is they've captured the term liberal and they've weakened it.
Oh yeah, they've weaponized it. I mean, just like woke. Woke is everything that I don't like.
Right.
Communism is everything that I don't like. Liberalism is everything that I don't like. I can just attach this term, throw it away, and it's done. Oh, you're just a liberal. I don't have to talk to you or listen to anything you have to say.
And liberals have weakened it too. Is my point.
Absolutely.
Weakened the shit out of it.
Yeah, sure.
So it can't be classical liberalism because classical liberalism is too much of the foot inside of the libertarian world. Right. The classic libertarian or the classic liberalism is not going to say we believe in individual freedoms, but we really do want to try to maximize public and social policy. We really do want to. We want to include that. That's actually a very good power move. For progress, if it's done correctly. It's debatable whether it's done correctly. It often is not done correctly. And we want to be able to do it in a way that doesn't stomp on individual liberties. So what we have now is a class of people who believe that they're liberal, who, if the values are Republican or conservative, then they want to slam the bars down on it and say, fuck government. We don't want anything from that government. But if Obama's in the White House or their person's in the White House, then they want the government to control and do everything as long as it's in league with what they want.
Natural.
And that's not liberalism. There's no measured approach to that. Its government has to be kept in check, period. Not it can fucking get the blank check when they are saying the disabled black transgender dwarf is now everything we're going to focus on. Now we're going to just give them the blank check for everything. And then when it's the other side, fuck that. So that's what I think. It's those two things. It's that guns aren't the center of everything. It's real easy to understand. Guns aren't the center of everything, number one. And number two, people just don't know what fucking liberalism is. What people think it is not liberalism. I'm not sure what to call it, but it's
it's not. And we have to walk, again, taking it back to that LGO, center, that core here that's well represented in Texas. All of us have had to tiptoe between those lines and code switch because we go to gun shows, we go to gun ranges. When it was back before social media was so prevalent, that's where you got to go get all your crazy, was at the gun show. It was the guy in the booth with the chain letters, like Ron Paul, his crazy letters. Like that's how they disseminated that information back in the day. They got together and shared it, and you would walk in and think, oh my God, this is crazy time. These people are insane and they have lots of ammo and lots of weapons. What am I doing here? Oh yeah, I wanted that really cool, that Satori. I'm going to buy that because I'm going to go on a dove hunt and I really wanted that gun. So I'll just deal with it while I'm here. Or in the milsurp world, I need the ammo, or I really wanted to get that M39. That's a great example. This guy's crazy, batshit crazy. I'll just nod and say yes, and then go about my business.
We went from hunting all the way right into the juice, which is fine.
Yeah, I didn't mean to jump ahead. We can
We'll move around. It doesn't matter. I want the flow. I'd rather have flow than order, right? But this brings us back to this point of everything is not what it seems in as it pertains to gun ownership and people. The main narratives want everybody to think that it's like one side versus the other. People are one way and people are the other. Even people on the left do that. But this isn't the case, right? The redneck hippie, the person who has to code switch in Texas, conversations with Brett Morse about he and I having the same experience where we're both like, this new brand of liberal gun owners, they kind of have this weird ego thing where they believe that liberal gun ownership started with them. I've seen it in so many people who've come into our group where they're like, either I thought I was the only one, or they legitimately believe that it's like this super special, rare and unique thing that only started in the last 10 years. And Brett and I were having a conversation once and we were like, I don't know what these fucking people are talking about, because I was like, I grew up in Pittsburgh. Everybody's like a JFK Democrat. And everybody's dad had a shotgun at least.
Right.
And Brett was like, yeah, I grew up in, I can't remember exactly what town he grew up in Indiana, but he was like, yeah, everybody, he was kind of close to the rural realities. Like, and everybody that I knew, or most people, were voted for the Democrats, and they all had guns. So this is what this is reinforcing in me. We're talking to you, we're hearing another testimony again about, like, it is not cut and dried, right? It's not, all the people in the rural reality are fucking, they're all Republicans and the conservatives. Well, that's not true. We know that's not true. And all liberals think exactly this one way and they're not into guns. Obviously, that's not true. This is another important testimony because, a lot of us in LGO, we bring some interesting mix, some eccentric mix, and you're definitely one of those dudes. Although when I interact with you, you could be a Yankee. Like, you have all the Yankee stuff going on. You got to work.
I gotta deal with that. That's hard. I hope my ancestors didn't hear that, but yeah.
But the thing is, you are a Yankee. You're from where I'm from. You're from Pennsylvania. Yeah. Your blood's from Pennsylvania.
100%. Yeah. I mean, that was, so we can get past it. Last name is Bacon, and that is directly related to Kevin. So my grandfather and Kevin's father were brothers. So it was really cool when I watched the episode of he and his wife Kira, and they did the Finding Your Roots with Henry Louis Gates, and he was tracking Kevin's family. I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is mine. We are sprung from the same, direct line. And it was literally the first, I think the first member of our family was, the surname was Cumley, but they came over, at the request of William Penn, right? So literally William Penn said, hey, why don't you come over to this cool new colony? You can, we can be Quakers together, and here's the deeds to a couple of plots in Philly, and here's, 1,000 acres, in the Brandywine Valley or whatever it was. So yeah, I definitely come from that eastern blue blood side, and then on my my mom's side and my paternal grandmother, very much Southern Texas, old school. Like when we buried my grandmother in the family plot in Waxahachie, Texas, there was Confederate gravestone markers there with CSA, Confederate States of America, from her family, that fought in the gray. So yeah, I'm definitely both sides of the Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah, very similar, or I'll say somewhat similar to Eddie Davenport, who's another anomaly amongst us. Hardcore roots in the Civil War, both sides. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take an aside, just jump back for a second, because I didn't really ever take dove hunting seriously until I saw you post up some barbecuing.
Oh yeah,
you had a successful hunt, and then you were cooking up some dove, and I was like, holy shit, that looks so fucking good. So what's the secret, man? What's the secret sauce for that, for prepping and cooking dove?
Secret sauce for all wild game, and what I've always found here is that most hunters, especially these old East Texas good old boys, they cook the shit out of it. They just cook it to within an inch of its life. And so right. the typical way that you would always have, some old boys like, oh man, I got the best dove recipe, man. You ain't never going to believe it. So you take that dove breast, you wrap it in bacon, you put some jalapeno in the center and some cream cheese. And so then all you end up getting is this big bite of bacon and jalapeno and cream cheese with like a little bit of stringy, dry dove meat in the middle. Yeah. I wanted to change that and cook it more like duck. So duck is a wild game that you can cook a duck breast literally blood rare, like you would a steak. So absolutely rare, and it is absolutely safe. There may be some parasites in there. I don't know. I haven't gotten sick from it yet, but you don't have to cook it more because it's a wild bird. You actually cook it less. So those dove that I've harvested that morning, on a field that had been flying into sunflowers, eating sunflowers that were, growing in a field, drinking, water out of a tank, a stock tank. That's what we call a pond in Texas, is a tank. I don't know why. That's just what we call it. I mean, not raised in some big factory farm setting, pressed upon each other. But in any case, what I showed you was the dove kebab. So I would take the dove breasts, which are, quite small, and they have a breastbone in between them, and I would cut the breasts off of each breastbone. So they're just literally one bite pieces either side of the dove breast. Marinate it usually in some sort of mix. I would change it up, constantly, but extra virgin olive oil, maybe a little tomato paste, some soy sauce, something sweet, brown sugar, a hit of vinegar, like with lime or some vinegar, just something to kind of get it in there. Some pepper, crushed garlic. Marinate in those, for maybe a few hours. You don't have to do it a long time. And then I got the idea to like, well, why don't I make this a kebab? And so I would take a couple dove breasts, a sliced onion, maybe a piece of sausage, just to add a little bit of fat, and then grill, alternate that on skewers, and then just grill it just like I would a steak to medium rare. And it tastes so much better. Every game meat you can possibly have, the less you cook it, the better it tastes. And that's what I was working with. And I do duck the same way. I like to have them as steaks that are really, nice and medium rare.
Yeah. So those of you out there that are listening, that do the wild game and the cooking, all two of you,
yes,
that are listening, it might be, you might want to try that out, because Josh is getting onto something new. That picture, those pictures that you put up, that was what made me want to, for the first time, go, I'm going to get together with Josh and I need to go dove hunting, because I need to figure out how to do this, because that looked really good. Otherwise, I mean, thinking about hunting doves originally, I was like, why the fuck would you hunt a dove?
Yeah, it's like, a pigeon.
Yeah, well, there's nothing there, man. Like what? But that made me change my mind.
Yeah, my favorite way to do it, just to add on to that, is make it seasonal. Like I would freeze them. I'd freeze dove breasts, put them in water and put them in the freezer, and you could defrost them later. But my favorite way was by far the birds I shot that day, put them on the grill, eat them, or for breakfast, take the dove breasts, dredge them in flour, throw them in some hot bacon grease, and you can make like little chicken fried, dove breasts, that there's all kinds of cool things. But my favorite way to do it is just to be out there in a big group setting, eat them that day, enjoy it, and go from there.
Yeah. And you're out every season now doing something, pretty much? I
mean, I was, but the property went with the ex-wife. Yeah. So that was...
Ain't that the way?
It is the way. And so ex-father-in-law sold the place. I haven't been out there. I still have dreams about it. I will still have dreams where I show up to the property and there's like, now at the big turn, as you came around, there's a gas station, there's an apartment complex that's on the one fence line. There's people on there that I don't know. I think it speaks to my fear of like urbanization and change, because growing up listening to my mom talking about our little town of Conroe, all the trees that were cut down, like, oh, that used to be all trees, or this just all clear cut. And it's true. It's constant. It's constantly, changing as we grow, and, urbanization as it spreads out, the sprawl. So yeah, I still dream about that place, but I haven't been in the field, with the shotgun in my hand since 2020. It's been a long time, or 21 maybe. Pardon me.
In beginning of COVID type times.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while. I need to get back out. I'd really love to go back to Colorado and meet up with my brother and a nephew and do some goose hunting again. That was amazing. Goose hunting.
Do you have opportunities in Texas for other properties or other places to hunt?
I can, with the lease. So again, we're back to the, $2,500 to $3,500 a year, to access a piece of property. It's pretty high. I've got friends that have places, so I can get some invites. I've got ways to get out. I just, not having that immediate access where I could just drive out, turn the water on, hang out, and had a place is definitely makes it more challenging.
Yeah. What, you're talking about, sprawl and shit in Texas. What are your feels on the whole, now Californians want to come and take over Texas?
Yeah, right. Man, it's happening. Our Austin brethren could probably speak to that even better than me, but they're definitely coming to Dallas, Fort Worth. I'm here in Fort Worth on, as part of what we call the Metroplex, so between Fort Worth and Dallas are about, 20 miles apart, to city limits. And then in between those and then up north, there's this gigantic triangle of toll roads, highways, pavement. I mean, you've been there. You've seen
Yep.
just the west side of Fort Worth, which is sort of underdeveloped compared to the middle, and into Dallas. But the sprawl is here. The people that are coming from California are not necessarily, at least on a broad spectrum, or at least in my very anecdotal observation, are not necessarily tofu eating hippies that want to use holistic medicine and take prayer out of school. Like they're more of that San Diego, Bakersfield, kind of more conservative Californians that are like, this place hates us and I hate it here and I want to go to Texas, and oh, by the way, land's a lot cheaper, so I can buy, sell my dinky little house in California and buy a literal McMansion once, a full-on mansion once I get to Texas, thus driving up, property prices, access to it. It's tough, man. It's hard to find a place, and rents are rising, and more people are coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't even pay attention to it, and it just comes across my desk just here and there. People like, I'm moving to Texas. I'm thinking about moving to Texas, or they moved to Texas and then they had to move somewhere else, or Californians, West Coast people.